All right. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Trey, and I'm joined today by Brittany, and we work for the Plano Public Library. So just a few housekeeping things. While in the Zoom program, you can exit full screen mode by using the escape key on your keyboard or clicking the exit full screen on the top right of the screen. During this webinar, your camera and microphone are turned off, but if you have any questions during the program, please feel free to type them into the chat. Brittany will monitor the chat for us. I cannot see that while I'm presenting, but she can get my attention if I need to repeat something or clarify something. You can find the button for the chat box at the bottom of your screen, and we ask that you please remain respectful in all your chat comments. Everybody can see your comments. Participants who do not follow this rule will be taken out of the webinar and not allowed back in. And just as a reminder, staff, we cannot advise on choosing or evaluating any kind of investment products or specific financial devices. And we're not going to really go into any of that detail. This is just a overall kind of beginner's guide, kind of a survey of things out there to be aware of. This class is for informational purposes only, and the views expressed do not reflect the official positions of the Federal Reserve System or the Plano Public Library. So thank you for joining us for Building Wealth, a beginner's guide to securing your financial future. So there are 5 steps in this series to guide you in your path to building wealth. First, we'll look at defining wealth, clarifying what wealth means to you and your family. And then we'll review the 5 steps to building wealth, looking at learning the language, budgeting to save, saving and investing, building credit and controlling debt, and finally, protecting your wealth. So before we dive into how to build wealth and protect it, it's important to understand what wealth is. So wealth can mean more than having unlimited amounts of money. It's going to be unique to each individual person. So I have a question for y'all. So just let us know in the chat if you feel free to share, or just sit and reflect to yourself personally. What does being wealthy mean to you? Give you all a moment to respond if you wish, or just sit there and think about it to yourself. Just what does being wealthy mean to you? So something to think about that some people may think about is, does it mean you can help your children with college expenses? Or maybe it means you're able to purchase a home. Those are 2 different paths and 2 different places in life for individuals. So it can mean completely something different depending on your stage in life, career goals, all that kind of stuff. Do we have any reflections in the chat, or?
Not at this time.
Okay, cool. Okay. So learning the language. It's important to understand the language used around financial matters. There's assets, liabilities, and net worth are the 3 basic concepts. And those can help you to better understand the steps to building wealth. So assets. Assets are things that you own that have value. Wealth creating asset is a thing you own that has value, and that value generally increases. So what's the difference? A couch is an asset, right? You can sell a couch for money, or you can trade it in for another item because it has value. Except maybe the couch that I had in undergrad, that was terrible couch and was worth nothing. Should have been burned, but I digress. So a couch is not a wealth creating asset because it decreases in value every year you own it. A house is a wealth creating asset because generally it will increase in value. Liabilities are debts. That's money you owe. So these include mortgages, car loans, student loans, and other debts, any kind of bills or anything that you owe money for. So your net worth is the simplest way to calculate your wealth, is to figure out your net worth. And that's a real general simple calculation here. To calculate your net worth, add up all your assets and then subtract all your liabilities. So here's an example of a balance sheet. And you can create a simple balance sheet to calculate your net worth. And I forgot to point out, you might in one of the earlier slides, you saw the little characters gathered around. This presentation is a creation from the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, this Building Wealth curriculum, and they've created a whole set of little personalities, little characters to help educate and walk people through things. So every now and then, might hear me throw out a name, like in this case, this is Anthony's balance sheet. It's one of their characters they created. And so this is Anthony's list of assets. He has cash, he has savings, a savings account, he has stocks, he has retirement accounts, and he has his car. So all total, this adds up to $46,500 in total assets. Now think about your whole financial picture. Which of these types of assets do you have? Do you have any that might not be listed here? Sure, some of you might have other assets that aren't listed here. We just have a pretty basic example shown here, but this is not an all-inclusive list. One thing to note, he has listed all his assets, not just his wealth creating assets. His car, kind of like the furniture we were talking about, the couch, we mentioned it before, it isn't really a wealth creating asset generally because it does lose value. Or can lose value. I guess depends on what kind of car you've purchased and what kind of car make and model. Might be a collector car, a vintage car, or it might just be a generic current model that you see on the road in great numbers. So after Anthony lists his debts or his liabilities, you can see that he still owes money on his car. He carries a credit card balance, and he's still paying off his student loans. And he has some small other debts, miscellaneous debts. So in total, he owes $22,500. So to calculate his net worth, Anthony takes his assets at $46,500, and he subtracts the $22,500, his debts, from his assets, and that gives his net worth total. So his real net worth, his total wealth, is $24,000. Are there any questions so far? I know this is very, very basic example, but it kind of gets you introduced to the language and the basics of the basic calculation. I'm sure there's people with a lot more complicated balance sheet, so to speak. Mine falls in this simpler form, so it's pretty easy to share and to think about.
No questions in the chat yet, but I am monitoring it. So if anybody has one, please feel free to type it in there.
Thank you. All right. So budget to save. This is our second objective here. So you're going to set some financial goals. Now that we understand some of the basic language, let's use it to set our financial goals. Goals are an important part of building wealth. Without a clear direction, your building wealth strategy will be harder to implement. Your goals should be realistic, and they have a set time frame, and include a plan and allow room for some flexibility. You can divide your goals into two time frames, a short-term goal or a long-term goal. So for example, one of the characters, Anthony, has a short-term goal of saving $3,000 a year for 3 years to have $9,000 for a down payment on a house. One of his long-term goals, is to have $5,000 a month to live on when he retires in 30 years. So you can set your long-term, your short-term or your long-term, you can set those time frames. That's really up to you, but generally a short-term ballpark 1 to 5 years, maybe 1 to 3 years, and your long-term is anything longer beyond that period. So anything that take you longer than 3 or longer than 5 years to accomplish. So we see Anthony's goals are good, and they have a concrete amount of money to be saved with some specific timelines, but he still needs to determine if they are realistic and come up with a plan to succeed. So to do this, you're looking at creating a budget. You need to develop a budget and live by it. So to achieve your financial goals, you need a budget. Budgets help you understand where your money is going, avoid overspending, and help you save money, which will help you build your wealth. The first step in creating a budgeting is to track your day-to-day spending. And this includes everything you spend money on, whether it's using a cash, check, or debit or credit cards. Even if it's just spending loose change in a vending machine for something, doesn't matter. Track it. So here we see Gabby as one of the other characters. She has charted out her spending for the last 3 days. And she has one column for everything that is spent using cash and debit, meaning it's coming from her checking account or her checks. And then the last column is money she spent using a credit card or a charge card. So once you have a clear idea of your usual spending, it's time to create a budget. Make sure you have your monthly income and spending information. And here in this example, Gabby's got her monthly budget. And in the first column, we see the category she's using for her budget. For income, we have listed, or she has listed her take-home pay. Now remember, this is not your gross income or your before tax income. This is the money that you take home after your employer takes out taxes, health insurance, retirement, and any other deductions that you might have. The rest will depend on your specific situation. Maybe you receive government benefits like Social Security. And this is the place where you would list those amounts. After that, she lists all her expenses. Like income, these categories will depend a lot on your personal circumstances. So some common categories include housing, groceries, car payments, gasoline, and more. So we can see here that Gabby is not creating wealth. She is creating debt. So on average, she's spending $85 more a month than she's making. So this is the point where you put your budget into action. To start building wealth instead of debt, Gabby decides to make a few changes. First, she picks up extra hours at work, which translate into an extra $40 a month. And that's extra $40 of her take-home income. And next, she needs to determine how to lower her spending. So here's her original spending. And she decides she wants to cut back around $170 in various categories. So she's now saving $125 a month instead of overspending $85 a month. So do y'all see that? And the spending changes decided that was going to cut back on maybe some of her internet or television subscription services. Cut back on her clothing that she's spending a month. We managed to save a little bit of gas in eating out, meal expenses, and some of her miscellaneous daily expenses. Those $8 lattes, I presume. So she's able to save $170 out of that, cut that much out of the monthly budget. So these basic steps can help you see where your money is being earned and spent, even if your obligations prevent you from making drastic changes immediately. This gives you a really good view of where your money's going, so you can make good decisions and plan your budget. So that was the foundation. So for investments and seeking guidance, investing is everything that you acquire for future income or benefit. Investing is a very complex topic, and we encourage you to perform your own research and seek out guidance from licensed professionals. Sorry, my button stuck there for a minute. It wouldn't go. So in the investment pyramid shows the different levels of risk associated with different types of investments. The riskiest investments are at the very top of the pyramid. Stocks are long-term hold items. Then there are bonds, medium-term hold items, and finally cash, such as your savings account, which are considered short-term holds. Underscoring all of this is your financial foundation. Two parts to your financial foundation include your financial plan and insurance, which we'll briefly discuss later. We've already discussed the importance of setting goals and creating and following a budget and determining your net worth. It is also important to keep track of your financial records. This means both making sure you have the documentation you need to adequately assess your financial situation, and making sure you're protecting your privacy by shredding discarded documents that are not needed. It's also important to save, save, save. So when you're deciding how to save money and referring to your goals to guide your decisions, there are a few basic types of savings vehicles available at banks or credit unions. So you have general savings accounts, money market accounts, or certificates of deposit. So these all have different rules regarding withdrawal, fees, deposits, and more. Make sure you do your own research when deciding what to use, if any. So credit history reports and scores are very important. It's important to think of the credit as a tool. Most people can't buy a house or a car outright. Thus, having a good credit history and credit score can enable folks to purchase your car or house. On the other hand, having a negative credit history and score can hinder you reaching your goals. The first step is to know what's on your credit report. It's very vital. It's important to review this information annually, each year, and make sure your information is accurate. Your credit report will not include your credit score. A credit score is a number generated as it's by a statistical model that objectively predicts the likelihood that you will repay on time. It can play a big role in determining the type of interest rates that you'll be charged to borrow money, should you need to borrow money. And these are what you're seeing on the screen are the three agencies that do credit reporting. So you've got three different agencies. And by federal law, you're allowed to get one free credit report each year. So there's no excuse not to check that at least annually. If you don't have any credit history at all, there are tools to help you build credit. Options include secure credit cards, which require a deposit of the credit amount, but your payments are reported to the credit agencies. Another option is retail store credit cards. With both options and with any other credit instruments, it's important to do your own research and make note of due dates, interest rates, penalties, fees, and other factors. And I'll note here that you really have to do some good research and look and find out if they actually do report to credit agencies. Because if you're getting a store account, a credit card, or some sort of type of device like that to try to build credit, I've noticed a number of these things out there in the markets. Sometimes they say, well, no credit required and stuff, and it also probably means they're not reporting back to the credit company, so it's not actually helping you to have that device. So keep that in mind when you're researching and looking at building and working on the credit in that path. After taking stock of your financial situation and deciding to strategically take on debt, make sure you understand the cost of taking on debt. Here's a listing of Vince's credit cards and their balance, interest rates, and the monthly interest charges. Remember that interest is lost money. It is a charge by the company or the bank to allow you to borrow money. It is money that cannot be saved or invested. So you're paying that money away. That's money you're losing. As you can see, some of his monthly interest rates on this example in the different cards, he's losing $56.47 that he doesn't get to save or to spend on anything else because he's spending on his interest charges. Now, predatory lending, this is interesting. So emergencies do happen, and this is the prime time that predatory lenders take advantage of those without financial resources or knowledge. Predatory lending can take different forms such as payday loans, car title loans, scams, and so much more. These loans are characterized by many extra fees and higher interest rates than are normally charged at a traditional financial institutions. The elderly and low-income individuals are frequently targeted by these companies in much larger numbers. So important to beware. So it's important to protect your identity. We mentioned earlier about shredding any kind of documentation as you were trying to keep up with all your financial documentation. Make sure that you shredded anything that might have some sensitive information on it. So Make sure you shred any financial documents and be careful when providing your social security number, and keep track of all your outgoing and incoming mail that handles any kind of that information. And these are some good tips here on protecting your identity. Another way to protect your wealth is with insurance. So it is a process of creating wealth. It is important to protect your wealth as you're slowly or rapidly, depending on your plan, building your wealth. So insurance is used to protect yourself from major financial loss. There are many different types, but the major ones include property insurance. This can include car insurance, homeowners insurance, and even renters insurance. As we discussed before, your home and auto are assets in your equation of building wealth, and the insurance can help protect them. Health insurance can include coverage for medical, vision, and dental concerns. There's also disability insurance. Medical insurance also helps protect your wealth in two ways. It helps you fund preventative care that can help you and your family stay healthy. And it can give you time to focus on your other goals, while insurance covering other medical care and disability insurance will help you, will help protect when you do have an unexpected illness or you become injured. Other insurance available includes life insurance and long-term care insurance. Like with investing, taking on debt and other matters, it's important to do your own research to determine what's the best options for you and your family. Just wanted to point out here that this concludes the main part of our presentation, but we're going to cover some additional resources available to you. If you don't mind, we have this QR code that you can go to the Thinking Money for Kids. During the summer, the Haggard Library is hosting the Thinking Money for Kids exhibit until August 24th. And we encourage everyone to come explore a bustling community of market-themed storyline, digital interactive content, and other fun hands-on activities. Really kind of for the whole family. They're really engaging exhibit. And there's a short survey to fill out. I'll just pause here for a moment, see a few chats. Is there any questions so far?
No questions so far. I've added resources to our chat throughout the presentation.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, go some of the additional resources that we have. So the library's got many resources to help you on your financial journey. There's a ton of books, as you would imagine. We have many databases, and we do other classes. The Morningstar Investment Research Center and Value Line are databases available to cardholders, and these specialize in fund investing, popular stocks. So you might find some interesting information as you explore that avenue of investing. Popular books in personal finance, such as I Will Teach You to Be Rich, The Total Money Makeover, and many others in both digital and physical formats are available through the Plano Public Library. We're doing have another class on, it's going to be presented by the Bank of America. Will be on money management first steps. That's on Thursday, August 25th. And August will conclude our summer programming season, so keep an eye out for our fall classes. Those will be, probably our list will be out hopefully sometime later in August, towards the end of August. And finally, we have the Plano Public Library Speaks podcast. That's available to listen and subscribe. Lots of fun topics covered each time. Encourage everyone to give it a listen. Oops, how embarrassing. Insert name, title, and email. Oh. Are there any questions besides, what's the insert name, title, and email?
No questions yet, but we still have plenty of time. If anybody would like to add anything into the chat, we are happy to answer questions.
Yeah, I'll share that. I cannot remember the exact detail of when the study was done. I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was done in 2020, I think. But the Fed had done a number of studies when we're talking about, planning for emergencies and stuff, and they found that clearly 1 in 4 Americans, so basically 25% of the population, might have been higher. Now I can't remember. I'm second guessing my memory on that. But a lot of people are unable to cover the expense of even just $400 of an emergency expense. I wish I had that number in front of me because it was a pretty good significant number. I wish I could remember that. Maybe I shouldn't have brought it up. But a large number of the American population could not afford to cover a surprise $400. That could be $400 doctor visit for something, for an injury, car repair breaking down. A lot of people can't cover that, but with a little, that's why they created this program with the Building Wealth, is to try to get people onto the path of planning, making a budget, making plans, and trying to save to try to mitigate being unable to pay for a surprise minimal expense of $400. And I know that's not a minimal expense for a lot of people, but have y'all priced tires lately? I don't know how many tires out there that none of them seem to be, just like one might be $400. Heaven forbid you have to buy a whole set. So everything's more expensive. And I'm just rambling until y'all have a question.
I am seeing a few attendees start to sign off.
Okay. Well, we really do appreciate y'all joining us tonight. Hope that gave y'all something to think about, and hope that is some useful information for you. So much of this really does start with asking yourself and being honest with yourself and asking some of the basic questions of what do you want to do? It's kind of like starting out like, what do I want to do when I grow up? But it's like really sit there and ask, what is my short-term goal? What is my long-term goal? What do I really want to do? Am I saving for college? Am I saving for my kids' college? Do I want to get rid of my old junky car and get a nicer, more reliable transportation in X number of months, X number of years? And sitting down and doing that foundational calculation of looking at your assets and your liabilities and starting your basis for your planning your budget will go a long way to helping you reach those goals and to save money. And really, it makes it easier to save money and build your wealth if you have really strong goals. So not some flippant goal of, I don't know, I want 100 pounds of ice cream next month. No. Real goals, solid foundation. If it's real goals and something that you're really working for, strong desires on that, it'll make reaching those goals much easier and less of a struggle. Gives you the strong why, the strong motivation. Well, thank y'all so much for joining us tonight. Well, unless somebody's in the middle of typing something, I guess we could end it there.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Thank you guys for joining. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
Bye-bye. I'm going to end it now, Trey.
Okie doke.
Bye-bye.